Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Chäos Head Noah. So, beim letzten Mal, ja, hat, hat, haben wir etwas über Sennas Vergangenheit erfahren und Taku hat festgestellt, dass er kein Zuhause mehr, zu dem er zurückkehren kann, beziehungsweise dass die Erinnerungen, die er an sein Elternhaus hat, nicht mit denen übereinstimmen, wo er eigentlich gedacht hätte, dass sein Elternhaus dort war. Und wir haben festgestellt, dass Shogun wohl offenbar auch ein Takumi Nichijou ist. Nee, Nishijou, sondern nicht Nichijou, Nishijou. Ich hoffe, dass ich jetzt halbwegs richtig ausgesprochen habe. Egal. Jetzt sind wir offenbar bei Ban und Yua. From the train windows, an indigo blue could be seen permeating the sky. The trains of the Yamamoto line grew chaotic as businessmen and students alike made their way back to their homes. Ich kenne diese Folge ja schon, ich muss die halt nochmal neu aufnehmen wegen technischen Problemen. Genauso wie bei der letzten Folge auch. Two of its passengers, Kusunoki Yua and Yasuji Ban, stood shoulder to shoulder as they shook along with the commuting train, holding onto its hanging straps for stability. They were admittedly an odd pair, and perhaps due to how much they stood out, you had been feeling constant gazes coming from all around her. It would stand to reason that this was why she was repeatedly fidgeting with her hair and glasses. She still was not yet acquainted enough with the detective Ban to strike up a casual conversation with him. She had only met him a few days prior, after all. Shinjuku was only a single station away from Shibuya, and yet the 3 minutes it took to reach there felt helplessly longer than they should have. Ben simply stood silently, gazing out the window. He made no attempt to speak with Yua. Yua's current impression of Ben was that he did not seem to be a bad person, but that he was still somewhat frightening. She had met other detectives that were on the case involving her sister, but none of them had left any especially good impression. Perhaps that had left her with an unconscious prejudice against detectives and by extension Ben. Or so she had concluded in her introspection.
だから地下15階の番人倒せば隠しダンジョン行けるだろ常識的に考えて
番人どこにいるかわからんなり
Ever since the two of them had boarded the train at Shinjuku Station, two men standing near the door had been talking in an excessively loud manner. Regardless of her desires, Yua was forced to listen to those two talking loud as could be, all without an ounce of consideration for those around them.
マップの左端の方だよ一目でわかるだろ番人
っていうか番人と警官の区別つかないぞなもし
いやいやどう見ても番人だろどこが警官なんだよ番人は銃持ってねえよ
Both of them wore plain clothes, bandanas, fingerless gloves, and bulging rucksacks on their backs. The two were a pair of so-called otakus. Yua herself was interested in and thus consumed both anime and manga, so it was not their appearances that left her surprised. She had simply never been to Akihabara before, so it was her first time seeing a stereotypical otaku complete with the clothes and everything. Realizing her curious glances were quite rude, she quickly averted her eyes. In the seat directly in front of her, a school girl with brown hair and navy blue blazer was tapping a message on her cell phone. Her gaudy artificial nails tapped the screen rapidly, and every time her fingers moved, her cell phone strap of a pistol swung back and forth. Naturally, Yua had seen the contents of her message. This was not through any fault of her own, however, the girl was holding her phone horizontally, giving everyone around her free rein to see everything she wrote. It was so easy to see. In fact, it was almost as she wanted Yua to see it. KSO leaked yesterday what Mixer was so bring he couldn't read the room at all. so annoying. Like how... Okay. Ich bin noch aufgeschmissen, weil ich kann das auch nicht vernünftig lesen, also. Despite being a high school girl, Sev could not even begin to grasp the contents of the message. It was possible that it could have been Gyaro. Gyaro? Ich glaube Gyaro wird es ausgesprochen, ich bin mir da gerade aber nicht sicher. But to her, it looked like nothing short of a coded message. Das Kind. All of a sudden, the voice of a child rang throughout the train's interior. Started your turn towards the source of the sound. A lone boy, about 5 years of age, stood right beside Barn. He had a squirt gun in his hand, its muzzle pointed straight at Barn. The boy even pulled the trigger, but no water came out from the end of it. Alter, dieses Kind geht mir jetzt schon auf den Keks. Ben gave the child a big smile. His eyes, meanwhile, told a different story. However, despite the message Ben attempted to convey, the child showed no intention of stopping. A woman likely his mother was to her son's side. She turned toward Barn and politely bowed. The mother scolded her son in an attempt to make him stop, but her reprimanding never extended beyond verbal. She did not take the water gun from him, nor did she attempt to grab his hand. To yours, the scene seemed very unnatural. The mother was clearly angry at her child, and showed an apologetic demeanor toward Barn, but that was the only thing normal about it. The boy remained completely indifferent and unresponsive, simply choosing to repeat the same word over and over again. And yet, despite his inaction, the mother made no attempts to stop him with anything other than words. And for some reason, Ben simply sat there and let the boy do as she pleased. In the end, the scene continued on until they arrived at Shibuya Station. Upon coming to a full stop at the station, the train doors opened, but the mother and son showed no signs that they intended to disembark. Relieved, you exited onto the platform along with Ban, taking a peek at his expression to show a clearly forced smile sitting upon his face. A personal injury in an accident involving Ban.
人身事故の影響でただいま振り替え運転を行っております。お客様には大変ご迷惑をおかけして申し訳ございません。最近よく感じるんだが。
A crowd of people came and went through the platform. As Ban walked through along with that crowd towards the Hachiko gate, he began whispering to Yor.
あるで不特定多数の人間にストーカーされてるような気がするんだな。
どういうことですか？
さっきみたいなことはよくあるしさ。周囲の人間の何気ない行動がまるで自分への嫌がらせじゃねえかって思えてくるわけ。
This was the reason why Ban had shown no reaction to the boy's mischief. Events such as those once that did not present much trouble were becoming an everyday occurrence for him. Once he had begun picking up on it, it made it difficult for him to stay of sound mind.
考えすぎだろうが、俺みたいな地味なおっさんに興味があるやつなんてそうそういねえだろうし。ただ集団ストーカーってのは確かに存在するんだよな。
普通のストーカー行為とは何が違うんですか？
被害を受けてる側からすると相手の意図や目的、正体すら全くわかんねえんだ。ただ誰か行く先々毎日のようにさまざまな嫌がらせを受けていると感じる。
Maybe I just was call the people see it as
集団ストーカーってのはそういうものだ。
ただの考えすぎっていう可能性は？
十分にあり得るだろうな。脅迫観念と紙一重だ。俺の場合はそうでもなさそうなんだけどな。ここ数日は相手もかなり直接的な手段に出てきている
と言いますと？
手を引けって脅迫する匿名の電話が何度かかかってきてな。
For some reason, Ben laughed as he told her that Yua, however, was frightened and wrapped her arms around herself in an attempt to bring her comfort.
それ大丈夫なんですか？
まあ、デカにはよくあることさ。
Upon saying that, Ben immediately stiffened his expression and looked at Yua.
ユアちゃんは最近そんなようなことはないのね？
はい、ないと思います。
身の回りでちょっとでも違和感を覚えることがあったらすぐにおじさんに言ってくれ。ユアちゃんの身の安全を守るのは警察の仕事だからな。
はい。
Having listened to his words, Yua realized she was involved in something far more dangerous than she could have imagined.
あなたは妄想の存在なんだよ。
Das ist ein verdammt wichtiger Satz von diesem gesamten Werk. Her voice a whisper. Remy said something nonsensical. Ignoring what she had said, I glanced at the various houses around me. In this place, well rooted in my memories, in this place I couldn't seem to recognize. Houses that should have been there were nowhere to be seen. Houses that shouldn't have been there were all I could see. The gap, the disparity between what I knew in my memories and the real scenery surrounding me, was getting wider and wider.
ずれてなんかない。
Yelling those thoughts aloud, I desperately denied the despair welling up in my heart. Yeah, there wasn't any gap, not in the slightest. I had just taken a wrong turn. This wasn't the right street. It was just a misunderstanding on my part. There was nothing wrong with the world. To think otherwise would be ridiculous. Stumbling my way back down the street I had come from, I burst into the neighboring alleyway. But just as I had feared, between my memories and what I actually saw, something felt out of place. I realized that my entire body was soaked in sweat. My eyes refused to focus, and my feet didn't feel well secured to the ground. All those feelings together hit me in with an intense wave of nausea.
なんでだよ。ここに僕の家があるのは間違いないんだ。僕はいつもここから小学校にも中学校にも通ってたんだ。小学校にはナナミと手をつないで登校してたし、中学は自転車で。
どこの中学校？
Remy, who had been following me quietly, asked a simple question.
どこって？
なんていう学校？
そんなの決まってるじゃないか。地元の。
It's,
あれ、
I couldn't remember. I'd gone to middle school. I had clear memories of it, but I couldn't remember any of the finer details. It was as if some intense haze was covering my mind. The name of my middle school, which class I had been part of, or even the name of my homeroom teacher. No specific names came to me.
そんなはずないんだ。ただ忘れてるだけで。
タク、聞いて。あなたの記憶にあるのはこの場所に家があるじゃなくて、この場所に家があるはずっていう思い込み。そうでしょ？
My sanity was hanging on by a thread.
だって僕はここに来るまでの道は覚えてるんだぞ。おかしいじゃないか。
それは作られた記憶だから。
Stop making that face. Remy's eyes were pointed straight at the ground, and she looked terribly sad. Without looking up at me, she just continued saying the most confusing, nonsensical things. Things that, once again, I didn't understand. Things that were impossible to understand, so I stopped trying.
タクは中学には通ってないの。
わかった。これドッキリでしょ。そうなんでしょ。きっとあれだ。そう、リミとナナミが実は知り合いとかで僕を2人して騙そうとしてるんじゃ。なんだ。そうか。ビビった。
Yeah, you're losing your mind, boy. I tried my best to laugh it off, but Remy didn't even so much as chuckle.
ごめん。私、これからあなたを傷つけることを言わなくちゃ。タク、あなたはね、本来いちゃいけない存在なんだよ。
嘘つくな。
She was trying to deceive me. Remy was my enemy, just like all the others.
貼り付けはリミの仕業だな。
If that was true, then what had happened at the crime scene when I had first met her hadn't been a delusion. The true culprit behind Nugent wasn't the man I had seen on the hospital TV earlier today. It was Remy. She had been monitoring me the entire time. She knew I'd witnessed everything. So she refused to let me out of her sight. Also, I would never tell anyone else what I'd seen. That was the sole reason she had bothered staying with me all this time.
君はあの時血まみれだった。だから君が犯人だ。
あれはあなたの望んだ妄想。ギガロマニアックスの妄想はね、強すぎる場合時に混じり合うの。妄想がシンクロするんだ。
Calmly, as though she was talking to herself. Remy spoke, and yet her composure only served to piss me off even more. Komm, wir kicken uns wieder die grüne Delusion.
少なくともあの時、あの場所では4つタクと私とニュージェネの犯人と。
信じるもんか。
Before she could continue, I cut her off. I then covered my ears and closed my eyes.
これは妄想だ。そうだよ、妄想なんだ。いつもしているみたいな。
Delusion time. Und
これ以上妄想しちゃダメ。
no more delusions, Taku. Und Delusion vorüber. My mind, still trying to delude itself, was forcefully whipped back to reality by Remy's words.
でないと私、タクを消さなくちゃいけなくなる。
殺すの？
A chill ran down my spine. My perception of Remy, the girl I had thought would save me, was rapidly spiraling. Now she was turning into someone completely unrecognizable to me.
殺すんだな。やっぱり君が殺人犯なんだ。
So why did she look so... Biting her lip as she fought back tears, hanging her head low as could be. It all made me hesitant to accuse her of anything. Tell me it's all a lie. Tell me it's all a prank so we can laugh it off. If you do, we can go back to how it used to be between us. I want to go back.
だったら僕は何なの？
ギガロマニアックスの妄想によって作られた人間かな。
バカらしい。僕にはちゃんと記憶があるんだ。中学の頃の細かい記憶は思い出せないけど、忘れちゃっただけで。
あなたが生まれたのは1年半前なの。
A year and a half ago, that would have been when I had started high
だ
school.
ったら僕は1歳半の赤ん坊っていうことじゃないか。バブ言ってなくちゃおかしい。
タクは生まれた瞬間からタクだった。
君がその目で見たって言いたいの？確かに僕らは1年半前から友達だったらしいね。僕は覚えてないけど。
私とあなたが会ったのは1ヶ月前。あの貼り付けの現場。私はもともと水明の生徒じゃないから。
Remy was a complete shizo. A complete and utter shizo. Just like all the others. No, not just Shizo, Super Shizo. She was at the tier not even Senna or Ayase could hope to match.
誰が僕を妄想したの？言ってみてよ。
西条匠くんだよ。
入ったたアウト。僕が妄想なんでしょ。その僕が妄想して僕を作ったって矛盾してるじゃないか。はい論破終了。
いや。
それとも君の妄想？君が勝手に作り出した君だけの脳内設定なんでしょ。僕をそれに巻き込まないでよ。
私だってタクには知ってほしくなかった。ここにも来てほしくなかった。もっと強く引き止めればよかったね。
The gathering her resolve, Rumi raised her head and looked straight at me. Her eyes glimmered with sincerity. It didn't seem like she was lying. She felt entirely genuine. She felt entirely genuine.
ここまで来たら本当のことを知ってもらった方がいいと思う。
But it wasn't the truth. It was all a lie. It had to be. Otherwise, my last shred of sanity would snap. Besides, who would ever believe someone who suddenly decided to hit them with, "Oh yeah, by the way, Dubs, you are delusion."
あなたの行動が他の人の命を削っていくんだって知ってもらった方が。
そうだ。ナナミは僕が妄想だったら僕と血がつながってるナナミも両親も妄想ってこと？そんなの無茶苦茶。
ナナちゃんはいるよ。
From the way Rumi talked about her, it was almost as she knew her.
ナナミを誘拐したのは君なの？
似たようなものかもね。私はタクを守ることに気を取られすぎてナナちゃんが狙われる可能性を考えてなかった。私は誘拐犯のこと知ってる。
She really was a demon girl. I was right. I've always been right. Rumi was the only one I had wanted to be on my side. And even though I had always believed that, there had always been more than enough reason to doubt her. And yet, even so, I had feigned ignorance and simply trusted that she would keep her promise to stay by my side. But despite all that, just like you are, Rumi was...
君も僕を裏切るんだね。
そうだね。私はタクを裏切った。隠し事たくさんしてた。ごめんね。私のこと恨んでいいよ。
謝られたって僕は信じない。信じられない。
Despite my words, it was impossible for me to prove that I was real. All the supernatural things I had seen up until now flashed through my mind, and that's when I knew I couldn't just laugh off her words as some insane asshole. As I thought that Rumi slowly began to approach me and then embraced me, taken completely by surprise, I surrendered myself to her. I could feel her warmth. She had saved me. She had saved my soul. She had taught me nothing but kindness. But now, despite being in the center of her embrace, her warmth could not have failed more distance.
そろそろ行かなきゃ。
行くってどこへ？
ナナちゃんをさらった誘拐犯のところ。決着つけなくちゃいけないの。このままだとタクも守りきれないし。
そんなの無責任だ。僕にここまでひどいこと言っておいて逃げるの？
Rumi started itching away from me. One step, then another, slowly she distanced herself.
戻ってくるからタクは部屋にいて。そしたらまた一緒にいろいろ楽しいお話ししよう。あなたはあそこにいてもいいんだよ。
Such a sensitive tone. Even though she had said all those cool things, why was she still being so nice to me?
でも一つだけ もう妄想はしない。ね、タクの妄想力はとっても強いから、妄想すればするほど本物のあなたの命が削られていっちゃうんだ。
何を。
それじゃまた明日。石。
Remy struck a pose, saluting me with the most unnatural smile on her face. It could not have been more forced. And only a moment later from her eyes quiet tears began to fall. Remy frantically turned her back to me, and as her shoulders started to tremble, she ran away. And I, having been left behind in a stupor, sank helplessly to my knees.
本物の僕ってなんだよ。僕は偽物じゃない。
All color vanished from the world. All hope I'd once had was gone. My very existence had been denied. There was no meaning in me being here. Not even my death had any meaning. Remy had left me, leaving behind a meaningless husk. She was my enemy, she had deceived me. And now, having said her piece, she had probably lost her final remaining reason to be with me.
戻ってくるはずない。
Remy had abandoned me, but of course she had. I was a delusionary existence, according to her, a monster. Only klatschte das ein. Forget it, I didn't care anymore. With no willpower to even stand up, I just stayed there, still unable to organize my thoughts, incapable of crying due to the sheer shock. The twilight wind robbed me of all warmth, and the very little that remained of Remy's faded completely. As I looked up at the sky for no particular reason, I gazed at the sunset, a sunset that had almost been completely eroded by the dark of night. Und ich würde sagen,
これ
an
が
dem
新
Punkt,
作またへんてこね。
hier beende ich jetzt diese Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.